This is the village of Turqueville in Normandy. It's no more than a couple of miles east of Sainte Mere Eglise and just a stone's throw from Utah Beach. And it was in this small village on the 7th of June 1944 that some of the most well-recognised photos of a 101st soldier were taken by men of the US Signal Corps. And in this episode of World War II Wayfinder, we're going to look at those photos and I will explain who the soldier was, who the German was, and why it came to be that it was here at Turqueville where those photos were taken. So in the spring of 1944, prior to D-Day, Turqueville was occupied by a garrison from the 795th Ost Battalion. This battalion formed part of the 739th Grenadier Regiment, and this was a regiment that was part of the 709th Infantry Division, the main infantry division for the Germans that was in this part of the Continental Peninsula. Obviously there was also the 91st Luftlandser Division that had the 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment subordinated to it, but the 709th Infantry Division was like the main static division that was here protecting for the Germans this part of Normandy. Now, it was originally planned by the Allies that the 12th Infantry Regiment of the US 4th Infantry Division, after coming ashore at Utah, would move to Turqueville and secure the village here. But the plans for the 12th Infantry Regiment to take Turqueville was changed in May 1944, and the task was given to Colonel James A. Van Fleet of the 8th Infantry Regiment of the US 4th Infantry Division. It would then be their task on D-Day to push inland from Utah Beach and secure the objective of the village here. Now, one of the many wonderful aspects about Normandy is how the French people remember those who came to liberate them, and behind me on that post is Colonel James A. Van Fleet of the 8th Infantry Regiment from the 4th US Infantry Division, and there's loads of these all throughout Turqueville. Even though it's just a tiny village in real terms, they still remember to this day those who brought them freedom 80 years ago. Now, as I said at the start of the episode, Turqueville sits just a couple of miles to the east of Sainte Mere Eglise, and it's about a mile and a half to 2 miles south of Drop Zone A, the intended drop zone for the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment and the 377th Parachute Field Artillery Battalion, the 101st's own artillery battalion that it could use as fire support for its rifle companies. And what's interesting about Turqueville is on the morning of the 6th of June, when the 101st were dropping, there was a stick of 501st paratroopers that actually landed here in the village and were taken prisoner by the German garrison here. Now, trying to come ashore on Utah Beach, the 8th Infantry got bogged down with the marshy land and the exits from Utah, and they weren't able to get to Turqueville on the 6th. As a result of that, the Germans put in defensive positions around here and started to do their best trying to counterattack the American incursions into the village here. And one interesting thing about Turqueville is it's not a village as we might think of like Saint-Côme-du-Mont or Sainte-Marie-du-Mont, those popular places where you have like a village square and then the surrounding buildings such as a church, the mayor's office, and then the houses that surround it. This is a really spread out, sort of disparate group of buildings all lumped together under the one village name. So geographically quite interesting and presented a different problem both for the defenders and for the attackers, because lots of places that the Germans would have to defend here because there was lots of points where the Americans could probe and try and push in. At dawn on D-Day, as the beach landings began, the Allies fell behind schedule. The 8th Infantry Regiment of the 4th Infantry Division struggled to advance from Utah Beach and the surrounding marshy area until around noon on the 6th of June. Meanwhile, Ost Battalion 795 retreated and formed a new defensive line centred on Turqueville. Encircled to the west by the 82nd Airborne Division paratroopers and to the south by those of the 101st Airborne Division, it was at around 9 AM that Major von der Heydt, the commander of Fallschirmjäger Regiment 6, that was seconded to the 91st Luftlandedivision, Division, initiated a counterattack from Turqueville toward the beaches. His 2nd Battalion was pinned down by fire from Sainte Mere Eglise. The Americans did not penetrate the defensive lines set up by the Germans, but continued their advance towards Sainte Mere Eglise, with the 2nd Battalion of the 8th Infantry Regiment bypassing Turqueville to the south, while the 1st Battalion set up camp for the night east of the village. Between the main body of the 82nd Airborne Division at Sainte Mere Eglise and the 8th Infantry at Les Forges, a substantial enemy force still held the ridge between Fauville and Turqueville, blocking the highway south of Sainte Mere Eglise. Another enemy force threatened the 82nd Airborne Division from the north. Eliminating these enemy forces became the primary focus for both the 8th Infantry Regiment and the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment on D+1. On the morning of June 7th, the 8th Infantry attacked the Turqueville salient with the goal of establishing contact with the 82nd Airborne Division at Sainte Mere Eglise. The 1st Battalion's attack on Turqueville itself began late in the morning and succeeded in eliminating the eastern tip of the enemy salient. During the morning, Lieutenant Colonel Gorlan A. Bryant and Sergeant John Svonchek, a driver from the 4th Division's G1 section, left the divisional command post to visit the 22nd Infantry Regiment. They took a wrong turn at Orderville and drove into enemy territory. At this point they were captured by the Germans. They were taken to a house south of Turqueville and held with the other 23 American paratroopers from the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment who had been captured on the morning of D-Day. Upon discovering that the enemy unit was Georgian, Sergeant Svonchek, who spoke Russian, persuaded some of them to surrender, and about 75 complied. The German captain then ordered a ceasefire and surrendered just as the 1st Battalion of the 8th Infantry Regiment closed in on Turqueville. Upon entering the town, the 1st Battalion of the 8th Infantry Regiment captured 174 prisoners. By the morning of the 7th of June 1944, after an assault by the 1st Battalion of the 8th Infantry Regiment, Turqueville was finally in American hands. The Germans had surrendered and those prisoners were starting to be moved towards Utah Beach to be taken back to England for interrogation for those who needed it, and for the rest just into prisoner of war camps, whether they stayed in England or then moved to America or Canada afterward. But I'm just approaching the crossroads where this very famous image was taken. It's actually a series of images, but we typically only ever see one, of 101st Airborne paratrooper called Wilbur Shanklin. And behind me there, this is the famous crossroads where that image of Wilbur Shanklin from Regimental Headquarters Company of the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment has his M1 Garand rifle with bayonet attached, and the German soldier has his hands up, posing for the signal call photographs that were taken in this spot on the 7th of June 1944. Now this is the most well-known image of Wilbur Shanklin holding up the German soldier from the 795th Ost Battalion here at the crossroads at Turqueville. And it's an amazing image, clearly staged, and we'll come on to that in a second when we see the other photos. But as you can see, other than some modern signage, not a lot has changed in this area in 80 years. And this is the second image, again another staged photo by the men of the Signal Corps, and it just gives a slightly different angle just looking further up the lane back into the heart of Turqueville itself. But again, another wonderful image, and you can pick out some great detail on Shanklin there. He's got his fighting knife tied to the right side of his right leg, hand grenades all over him, and it appears that the sensor has eliminated his unit markings, the ace of spades on his helmet there, so synonymous with the 506. But just another great image. And if you also look carefully, you can see the sign of Turqueville on the telegraph pole in the background. But just a wonderful image. Now, the final photo that was taken here of Shanklin, this is my favourite. It's not the one that's often seen, but there are some wonderful details in this, and you can see men of the 4th Infantry Division resting up on the side of the road here, and another, I believe, paratrooper on horseback just further down the lane. And this image is wonderful because the view from 1944 remains exactly the same today as it did 80 years ago when it was taken on the 7th of June. All right, and here is the image. And you can see there in the bottom right of the photo, you've got 2 GIs there from the 4th Infantry Division. Their shoulder sleeve insignia of the Ivy patch is clearly visible. Shanklin there, cigarette in mouth and rifle with bayonet pointed clearly at the German soldier. The chap standing at the left, I believe, is either 4th Infantry or one of the Signal Corps team. And then it looks like behind him, or sorry, I should say in front of him, is another paratrooper, again with bayonet fixed to his rifle, and then a paratrooper coming down the lane from the direction of Sainte Mere Eglise on horseback. And it remains the same today as it did all those years ago. And because it remains so unchanged, this really is one of my most favourite places in Normandy, just because the historical events that took place here, and those images are seen often when looking at the D-Day story, but it seems very, very few people know who the individual was or who the Germans were involved. So hopefully from this episode, you now know that the 101st paratrooper in question was Wilbur Shanklin from Regimental Headquarters Company of the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, and that the Germans here were from the 795th Ost Battalion of the 709th Static Infantry Division, the ones that were guarding the Utah Beach sector of the Contented Peninsula. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of World War II Wayfinder, looking at those famous photos of Wilbur Shanklin from Regimental Headquarters Company of the 506. If you have, please hit that like button, comment and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.